So, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining me today as we embark on a journey in the realm of skepticism and its philosophical implications. So, basically, the topic today is navigating the realm of skepticism and exploring exploration into its philosophical significance. Before I jump into any definitions of some sort, I really want to first acknowledge the school for providing me an area to record for my YouTube channel, as well as uh, the Secular Student Alliance and the Atheist Republic, whom I volunteer to do such stuff. Richard Dawkins Foundation and Sam Harris's Foundation, Freedom from Religion, and Sir Richard Dawkins Foundation for Reason and Science for helping me in making such a speech, and my sister Namya and my bro Kanishk to help me plant the seed of doubt in question and such philosophical thought into me. Before starting this, I actually got this idea from some YouTubers like Cosmic Skeptic, Genetically Modified Skeptic, Pologia, and Aaron Ra, who make such lectures every now and then. And before getting into it, if you don't understand any words or any vocabulary into this, please make sure to ask that in the question round after the lecture. So first, before getting into the topic, we should define what is skepticism. So skepticism is basically a very, it may sound like a dubious or say skeptical term. It is actually a philosophical position which challenges our ability to attain certain knowledge or absolute truths. It's like saying, hold on a second, do you really know that? We don't, I'm a skeptic and I don't take things at face value. That is what basically skepticism is. And as I've invited you science students, you might know that better than me. Evidence is key in exploration, according to me. And just before entering into this, I just want to convey to everyone, even to the YouTube's sector, that science is not a certain stream or a certain area of study. Science is just a method in which we understand how to experiment and know that certain factor is true or not. So, according to me, I am a geography and a history student. I too use the method of science in order to prove certain factors in geography and history. It doesn't matter if I'm in humanities or I'm in commerce, it's still is using the same methodology of experimentation and observation. So this started, this skepticism started into me as I was listening to the YouTubers, as I told, and actually a thing came into my mind. So as we're told to not take things into face value until we have any evidence for it, I didn't really have any evidence for a round earth at that time. We really, it was, I guess it's like when I was 11 or 12, and we just were told the earth is round because the science textbooks tell it. And if the science textbooks tell it, doesn't mean it's right. You should at least go out and check that if it is really true or not. Just check the evidence for it. And if that evidence is plausible to you, uh, it's in fact I would say true. So uh, I took a path taking two positions. Okay, either the earth is flat or either the earth is round, and taking the position, even though I know the earth is round, but let's take an unbiased I don't know here. And so now I took up the evidence for a flat earth, took up the evidence for a round earth. Turns out the flat earth evidence is BS, round earth evidence makes a lot whole sense, and there are way too much evidences for a round earth. Hence, I can tell you that earth is round. Earth is not a triangle, not a donut, nothing else. So, skepticism is basically questioning. You might now ask, that's just doubting stuff, right? So, skepticism actually goes beyond doubt, if you would think. It's like uh, a timid little mouse, and it races fundamental questions about nature of knowledge and capacity to acquire it. So it is like doubt with the big brother who constantly asks questions about everything and keeps what the intellectual keeps on telling you to do. Here, doubt's definition in the dictionary, it suggests both uncertainty and inability to make a decision, whereas skepticism implies unwillingness to believe without conclusive evidence. As again, this is my main motive to do this. As you are science students specifically, I would love if I could do this again with other streams, to please experiment what you do and please test that out if it's actually true or not. Uh, so, skepticism, let's get into the historical development of skepticism. Come on, I am a history student, I'm not going to get away with this. So, ancient skepticism, it was actually known as Pyrrhonism. Now, you might ask, who is Pyrrho? In us philosophical uh, uh, geeky discussions, we call him the OG skeptic, if you might understand that language. Or he's the ultimate skeptic, the first skeptic ever to exist. He laid the foundation to skepticism as a formal philosophy in the Hellenistic period, because philosophy originated during the time of the Greeks, as we all know. And he is actually known for saying a fact. I'm not sure. Maybe, who knows? It is actually is good. You can check that out. Be skeptical about my suggestions too. So basically, if we are running into this into a philosophical language, skepticism is the opposite of dogmatism, and dogmatism meaning just believing because it's just said so, and suspension of judgment. Now, what is suspension of judgment? So, Pyrrhonists took, like, it was, they were playing safe to a whole other level. They advocated for the suspension of judgment, and not affirming or denying anything. Like, if you might know, it's like philosophical Switzerland, be neutral everywhere. Uh, and just what is suspension of judgment? You might ask, why judging might be good, right? But reading skepticism, we really take our prejudice away, our bias away, like I did with the flat earth and round earth perspective. Even though I knew the earth was round, let's just, well, there's an interruption. We just take that, okay, I don't know right now, I don't have the evidence, so I don't know. And if you don't have the evidence, then you don't know it. So, coming next, varieties of skepticism. Now, this is a pretty long topic and a pretty darn philosophical topic. It is the first is the epistemology of skepticism, or basically knowledge of something. And as it said in skepticism, and I guess everyone would agree with me in this, knowledge of something is impossible. You can't truly have knowledge of that certain discipline, that certain topic. It's not going to happen. And as Socrates quoted down, that the more and more you know, the less and less you know. Meaning that the more a person who is educated, they'll know that they're educated because they know how ignorant they are. Like, they don't know a lot of stuff, and they wouldn't know in such a short lifetime. So these epistemology of skepticism are in two types: radical skepticism, and moderate skepticism. So radical skepticism is like skepticism in the extreme, and they believe that knowledge is unattainable, and like trying to catch a greased pig at a country fair. It's like a slippery like a bugger, if you understand the pun. So here, doubt does exist as the veracity of every belief and the veracity of every other belief, and its certainty is therefore not justified and never can be justified. For example, Bertrand Russell, great philosopher of the 20th century, put down in his book, can you actually prove that there is no teapot orbiting the sun right now. Can anyone prove that's not happening? Anyone? Any volunteers? Hand raise. Not happening or happening? Come on, please be interactive a bit. Okay, so you can't prove, right? In the similar way, that just tells you that you don't have the knowledge of that particular topic. Moderate skepticism. Moderate skepticism is a bit, you could say, moderate. Well, they are more reasonable, and they acknowledge the limited knowledge, and they challenge absolute certainty. So they are like Goldilocks in skepticism. Get it? Just at that right spot. So if I would tell where I lie, if there was a scale from 1 to 5, and moderate was at 1, and radical would be at 5, I would be at 4. I think so. And if anyone knows this, people generally take radical skepticism to nihilism of knowledge, rationality and probability of certain things. If we are radical skeptics, doesn't mean that we are nihilist meaning there is no purpose in life and we are just here because of some neurochemicals and stuff. And it just means that we acknowledge the fact that we are ignorant and we won't know anything, but we still try to, because you live only about 82 years and average. So talking about skepticism, let's again, a major law of skepticism is you hear the argument from your side, the side you support, and you also have to hear the argument from the other person's perspective. I would please like if you could pay a little bit attention. Thank you. So you have to stay as unbiased as possible. Being a human, being a Homo sapien. Hello, my dear fellow apes. How are you doing? We can't be really unbiased about everything. We are biased about certain things, even we are unconscious of it. And here, the basic thing is that if you be unbiased, you look at the other person's argument and you'll finally find out that what sounds more plausible. For example, if you don't know, I am an atheist and I don't believe in a supernatural deity. And I used to be a bit biased on not reading any holy scriptures or any stuff like that, but now, following my code of law of skepticism, I am starting to read the holy scriptures like the Bible, Quran, Guru Granth Sahib and the Gita, but unfortunately I haven't changed my mind yet. Now, talking about skepticism, now we have to hear the arguments against skepticism, challenges on the implication of skepticism. Again, justification is a huge problem in skepticism. Skepticism makes a question like that justification, it makes a question about the justifications of our beliefs. It is like you're arguing with a friend and they say, oh yeah, can you prove it? And then you just have to scroll down all the evidence and research papers. You see there, the problem with this is you can't properly attain full knowledge about anything. We are very sure that the galaxy 13 billion light years away is 13 billion years old. 13 million years in the past, as the light might see. You might know more about that. And I would please want if we could have some silence. And you can't really prove the fact that it might be possible that 13 billion year old galaxy might be 90 billion light years away. Might be we have a problem in our calculations, or even though our calculations are right, Mathematics is an invention of the human being, sorry, of the Homo sapien, and there is not full certainty. I mean, we can't even divide by zero. Come on, that's pathetic. And similarly, can you prove that ghosts don't exist or ghosts do exist? I don't think so. There is a lot of evidence, so-called video evidence, for ghosts in existing, but till now scientists generally hate any eyewitness testimony or subjective reasoning. Say that I felt this way doesn't mean it's objectively true, and if you saw it, again doesn't mean it's objectively true. The human brain is really primitive, and we are poorly evolved apes, mammals, in short, and we really can't see anything. You might know as a science student, we don't have any way to look at the spectrum of light. Like we can barely look at the spectrum of light. We can just see red, violet, blue. We can't see ultraviolet. We can't see infrared. We can't see any possible light. Mostly in the universe, we generally fall into illusions and hallucinations. We think there is a oasis in the desert, but it's not there. And again, uh, such sense eyewitness testimony is rather told as the worst testimony in science. If you said that I saw an alien yesterday, and a scientist would say, "Yeah, get the hell out of here." Yeah, just next time when you see an alien, just take a phone, keep it in your pocket, just turn on that recording, and then we'll trust you. Then we'll trust that okay, there are UFOs. Now, coming into the part of your area, the science and skepticism. So skepticism and science go hand in hand. They are like peanut butter and jam, say, and some Western dishes. Skepticism encourages. If you really don't want to listen to this, you can please leave, but please don't talk in between. So, skepticism encourages critical thinking by questioning stuff, and uh, it's necessary towards the knowing of scientific claims. As Einstein said it, Einstein said it that I am not smart. It's just my ability to ask questions and try to solve them, not putting some supernatural being into that answer, not putting some thing that I can't explain and just leaving it around and uh, putting it for another century of work. If you ask questions, you'll find those problems, and the Homo sapien ego is in such a way that when you have questions, you really want to solve those questions. And those questions should be solved only when you have plausible and certain evidence and proof for it. As similarly, there is an example. So Isaac Newton, I think everybody knows Isaac Newton. Newton was working on the spectrum using certain refraction and refraction and reflection. I guess I don't remember that much, and he came to a certain conclusion which he couldn't explain. And as Newton was an extreme Catholic, he just said, "Okay, I can't explain this. Okay, it's probably God did it. Let's leave that out there." And 200 years after that, Michael Faraday found out this other wavelengths uh, after infrared and ultraviolet and certain laws of refraction. So do you see, due to such dogmatism and such imperfect and illogical reasoning, we couldn't improve what a guy could do 200 years before. Michael Faraday did that in 1850s or 60s, I guess. And Newton was in about the 17th and 16th century. If he would have had that seed of doubt and had that rationality with him, that then he could have just formed the laws of refraction and reflection at that time. But due to his skepticism and non-existent skepticism, we fell back 200 years. Now, uh, yeah. Coming on a certain topic, what I think might of you might find controversial, but I don't think so that way. Skepticism and faith. Skepticism takes religious faith on a wild ride. It really doesn't like religious faith because religious faith really doesn't give you any evidence. Uh, it challenges its unvariable beliefs and sparks debates with the compatibility of faith and reason. It's doubting the authority which is possible there and not being anti-religion. Some people are anti-religion. Some skeptics are generally anti-religion. Most of the atheists are anti-religion, uh, who are currently having brilliant YouTube channels, but they do question it, the religious faith, not attacking the person itself. We are attacking the ideology, in which, in fact, in any holy scripture you would find no religion really likes it being questioned. And again, skepticism for faith doesn't mean you have to be an atheist, doesn't mean you have to be an agnostic. You could generally, it generally is for deism. Deism meaning there was just a person who made all the laws, did the Big Bang, and now he's sitting back watching us ruin our planet. Now, responses to skepticism. There are three philosophical responses to skepticism: foundationalism, coherentism, and pragmatism. So, foundationalism is a pretty weak argument. As I would say, foundationalists believe that building knowledge on solid foundations is like constructing a philosophical skyscraper. It's all about finding that unshakable base, like the bedrock of knowledge. So, no no inferential belief is justified without its bedrock, according to me. And really, it's like if P entails Q, then they are true. It doesn't have to be that way. But how do you explain P then? P just came into existence like this, like this. That doesn't happen. Uh, Coherentism is just, it's like a web of knowledge, a loop. It's not something coherent. It's a web of knowledge. It makes stuff coherent with each other. Being like if P entails, if there is a triangle PQR, all entail each other. Makes sense a bit, right? It's like interconnected beliefs. It's like a philosophical spider, if you would name it, spinning with a web of, spinning with a web of truths, as it call it. It's about making sure that the threads of reasoning hold together. So if all those three arguments or things are coherent with each other, they all cohere each other and they are true. But the fact is that if it coheres something, if it is acquainted to something, doesn't really mean it's true. It doesn't have any evidence for it. Again, pragmatism is actually a very, very good argument against skepticism, according to me. Pragmatists focus on the practical consequences of beliefs, like asking, okay, yeah, I like your fancy skepticism and all, but does it really work? They are somewhat skeptics who say, I don't give a damn if the cat is dead or alive. I just want that it should catch the damn mouse. So it uses words and thoughts as tools for prediction, but problem solving and the problem solving and deduction is rejected as the idea of function. So according to them, function is something which is hypothetical, but they're somewhat skeptics in a way. And if we want to argue related to if skepticism is better or is pragmatism better, it's a very hard philosophical argument. And if I would, they would be another 1 hour lecture on this. So coming on to a point which I really want every one of you to employ, it's the Socratic method. And if some of you might have checked out my video briefly on skepticism, I label the Socratic method. I'm going to use the example of evolution again here. So the Socratic method has four basic questions. Why I believe it? How did I come to that conclusion? What are the arguments against it? And what is the evidence against my conclusion? Taking the example of evolution, okay, let's do a poll here. How many of you believe that evolution is a fact? Nobody really. Do you think that we were just put into existence by some god, or do you think evolution is a fact or not? Don't be shy. Come on. Right? Okay, well, I think I would change your mind right now. Why I believe evolution? Okay, why do you believe evolution? Anyone wants to volunteer in telling anything? How about you, Ganesh? Can you tell me why you believe evolution? As a fact, yes. And you can stand up and talk.
Charles Darwin who gave the evolution theory.
Yeah.
Charles Darwin was the one who gave the evolution theory.
Yeah.
And humans are mostly evolved from apes, as he said. So there are various similarities between humans and apes. So that's why I came to the conclusion that evolution is
Okay, fair enough. I believe evolution because I actually have done deep study into it and checked out the evidence myself and checked out some arguments which I'll state afterwards. Uh, the arguments for evolution, for example, you can check any fossils, go out in any museum, go check some blood samples of you and a chimpanzee, check their DNA. You're 99% a chimp. Don't get ahead of yourself. We all are chimps. We all are apes. We are the great apes evolved, but still we are apes at the end of the day. Uh, I don't think I need to give any evidence more about that. And how did I come to that conclusion? Basically, I was taught about that. Actually, the sad fact is in India there's a protest being done by scientists that evolution should be taught, whereas evolution is not being taught in schools, which hurts me. It should be taught. And how did we come to that conclusion? We came to evolution as a conclusion as Darwin gave his theory, gave his testimony, proved his testimony, and well, if you can prove it, that's a fact. Basically, if you don't have any evidence for what you are giving, it's not true. Okay, I'm not going to accept that. As Hitchens' razor puts it, something asserted with positive evidence is going to be turned into a fact most probably, but something asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. So what are the arguments against evolution? This is a very funny topic. So let's go into the Bible first. The Bible talks about in the book of Genesis, it says that the earth is 10,000 years old. It says that we came from two humans, Adam and Eve. Okay, there was a flood 6,000 years ago, a whole worldwide flood where it killed all the species in ancient Mesopotamia and traveled all the fossils to modern day countries and areas. Again, Do you really believe that the earth is 10,000 years old? No, it's not 10,000 years old. We have so much ample evidence for it. We can't have two human beings as an ancestor, Adam and Eve. It is not possible because if you would actually, there was a case if people would ask, okay, tell me who came first, the chicken or the egg? What do you think came first, chicken or the egg? Anyone? Please don't be shy. Come on, I wanted to interact. What do you think came first, the chicken or the egg? The chicken. Okay, that's wrong. The egg came first, and how I can tell this because the species before the chicken, which I don't know its name, but when it laid the egg, it changed, as we know, it changes some DNA in between, and yeah, there is some evidence. You can check that out. You can check. You can check the process of evolution. It can come. Yeah, so that's not the chicken which laid the egg. We are coming from an ancestry of a chimpanzee. Doesn't mean we are still a chimpanzee. We're a Homo sapien. So a chimpanzee, by some genetic diffusion, it gave birth to an Australopithecine, which. But let me please complete. You can ask me the question. Uh, the Australopithecine. It gave birth to Australopithecine, and it didn't really know what the Australopithecine was. How can the parents know? Evolution is happening right now, and after certain thousands of years, we might see some genetic difference. And when that species laid that egg, there was a genetic difference, and that genetic difference is equal to what genetics we see in a chicken today. Simple. And if you want to argue what laid that egg, it was not. It was somewhat an ancestor of a chicken, which was evolving into a chicken. If you want, you can. Yeah. So according to yeah. So that ancestor is not a chicken. We came from a Homo erectus. It doesn't mean we are Homo erectus. We came from an ancestor between a chimpanzee, Australopithecine. It doesn't mean we are Australopithecine. Australopithecine were their max height was 5 foot. They had brains, the elongated brains. They had elongated skulls. Their dentition was absolutely horrendous. Their fingers would be like this. They would have locked wrists, and they could walk upright, but their ankles wouldn't be as plausible as they are right now.
We're talking about mammals, right? That's about mammals.
Yes.
We evolved.
So
But the
it.
chicken didn't evolve. It was a Did the chicken evolve?
Yes.
I'm watching the same
Yeah,
chicken.
evolution is happening right now. You can check that. If look, Copernicus's law says that if it's happening to you, it's happening to everyone. If all the planets are round, our planet is round. If all the planets have a star in the middle, you also have a star in the middle. Basically, it's saying you are not special. You were not made in the idea that the Big Bang has had thought about you in their existence. The Big Bang didn't give a damn. The Big Bang doesn't give a damn right now as well. And it had the same ancestry, and you can check that out on Google. I volunteer you to check that out. You can check research papers on it. If we evolved, they evolved too. They evolved with us. We can see the DNA, and we can see their DNA path. Now, just in the conclusion, I just want to give you some examples more. Uh, like the problem again, one problem with evidence is that evidence doesn't really. Could you please stay quiet a bit? The evidence, if there is evidence, doesn't mean it's 100% true. You can't 100% say most of the things are true. And so basically, what I'm trying to say, talking about history, we can say Hitler did exist. We have video evidence, we have mass murder evidence, we have writing evidence, we have picture evidence, pictorial evidence, so much. Can we say Jesus existed? I mean, according to me, a whole lot of Jesus exist, but I don't think that the Messiah which you're talking about, that was the Messiah you are, because it doesn't support any evidence regarding that, and you can check that out. Just to convey, people do ask me that evolution is just a theory. Theories are not facts, right? Wrong. There are two types of theories. One type of theory is the vocabulary theory, which is this is what I hypothesize and this is what it is. I think so. I am not sure about it. The scientific theory is some other kind of theory. It's like this has been thoroughly tested. This hypothesis can have the biggest appreciation to a hypothesis is calling it a theory. And if it becomes a theory in science, it is considered true. And if you want to debate on that, there is a thing, the law of gravitation, gravitational theory, the theory of relativity, the cell theory, the germ theory, theory of evolution, and the theory of the geological theory, tectonic theory, and so on. This all are theories, because at the end of the day, you didn't really observe the earth being formed. Facts are true even though you don't like it. If you want to live forever, you won't live forever, and that's a fact. We all are mortal, we all will die one day. And addressing one thing, so actually I saw a Twitter post, and there was a person who gave his address in a way saying, I am from this city, this state, this country, earth, solar system, this suburb of the Milky Way, the galaxy's name, cluster name, the local cluster's name, the local group's name, then the entire observational universe. Just proving that how small we are. And basically, what actually Neil deGrasse Tyson really said, that we are small. If you look at the universe, we are big if you look towards the atoms. But at the end of the day, we really weren't made in the mind of the Big Bang. And the fact is that we should find some purpose into this, even though we are worthless for the universe, because till now we are the only life on in this universe, and without us the universe has created the atoms which created us, and now the universe is living within us. The universe is understanding itself and living within us. So as we conclude through the journey of this labyrinth of skepticism, I hope you all like this wild ride filled with skepticism, doubt, and a sprinkle of humor. Skepticism encourages us to question, challenge, and critically analyze our beliefs, leading to personal growth and intellectual development. So keep embracing your inner skeptic. Stay curious and remember that the pursuit of truth can be entertaining as it is enlightening. Thank you all for joining me today on this philosophical roller coaster, and may your skepticism guide you to a new and exciting intellectual horizons.